Reading Rainbow is made possible by grants from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the National Science Foundation, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, this station, and other public television stations. And by a grant from Kellogg's, who reminds you to take time each day for reading.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading
Hi there, and welcome to the bumpiest taxi ride in Boston. Our camel's name is Ah. It's an Arab word. It means brother. Oh, brother. We usually think of camels as moving across the deserts of Egypt. In fact, camels are called ships of the desert and are right at home with the huge figures of the Sphinx and the pyramids. These mountains of stone were built thousands of years ago by the ancient Egyptians, and today they are known as one of the 7 wonders of the world. The pyramids were burial monuments for the kings and queens of Egypt, silently guarding their secrets of the past. Today, Ah is taking us on a journey into the history and mystery of ancient Egypt to unravel the secrets of Egyptian mummies. Mummies? What are they? How were they made? And who made them? Do you know what a mummy is?
Your mom. Is someone wrapped up? One eye, one nose, one mouth, one ear. Mummies walk like this. And 2 bodies. A person that's all wrapped up and put underground for a long time.
People have lots of ideas about what mummies are, and some are more fantasy than reality. But this book has all the facts wrapped up. It's called Mummies Made in Egypt.
Mummies Made in Egypt. Written and illustrated by Aliki. Read by Corinne Orr. Ancient Egypt was a long, narrow country, divided in half by the Nile River. The land beyond was desert. There the ancient Egyptians buried their dead. The ancient Egyptians had one great wish. That wish was to live forever. Egyptians believed that after they died, a new life began. They would live in their tombs as they lived on Earth. In order for a person to live forever, the body had to be preserved or mummified. A mummy is a corpse that has been dried out so it will not decay.
The earliest Egyptians were mummified naturally. The corpse was buried in the ground. The hot, dry sand of Egypt dried out the body. But as time went on and burials became more elaborate, people learned how to embalm or mummify their dead. Embalmers became so expert that the mummies they made remained preserved for thousands of years. Mummification was a long, complicated, and expensive process. It took 70 days for embalmers to prepare a body. First, they took out the organs. They started with the brain. Then, the inner organs were removed. The body cavity was stuffed with bundles of a chemical called natron. Then the whole body was covered with natron, and the corpse was placed on a slanted embalming bed with a groove at the bottom. Fluids from the corpse dripped into a container. Natron dried the body out the same way the sand had. After 40 days, the natron packs were removed. The dried, shrunken body was sponged clean and brushed with oils, ointments, spices, and resin. The arms were crossed, and the mummy's fingernails and toenails were covered with caps of gold. The mummy was adorned with jewels of gold and precious stones. Then the body was carefully bound with long, narrow strips of linen. Fingers, toes, arms, and legs were wrapped individually. Every few layers were glued together with resin. After 20 layers, the mummy's body took on its normal size. The bound head was covered with a portrait mask. The mask, too, was bound. Then the whole package was wrapped in a shroud and given a last coat of resin. The mummy was finished. Meanwhile, skilled artists, sculptors, and carpenters prepared for the burial. They made the coffin, or a nest of coffins like these, for the mummy. The coffins were painted inside and out with gods, goddesses, and magic spells of protection. A splendid sarcophagus, or stone box, was made to hold the mummy's coffin. The walls of the royal tombs were carved and painted with scenes from Egyptian life. A long, solemn funeral procession took the mummy to the tomb. As years went by, tombs became bigger, stronger, and more elaborate. Pharaohs, or Egyptian kings, had pyramids built for themselves. Pyramids were huge stone monuments. They were magnificently carved and painted. When the funeral procession came to rest at the tomb, the mummy was put into the sarcophagus, which was covered with a heavy stone lid. The entrance to the tomb was sealed up with a wall of stone slabs. At last, the mummy was in its eternal resting place.
Thanks to Aliki's book, we've unwound some of the mysteries of mummies. But where do you go to see a mummy face to face? Well, if this were ancient Egypt, Akhir could take us to a pyramid. But we're in 20th century Boston, and our destination, the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, which has one of the largest collections of mummies in the United States. Oops. Let's go. I can't believe we're actually standing next to real mummies. They're over 3,000 years old, and what makes them even more special is that we know who they were. Now this is the coffin of a mummy known as Ta Bess, and it's encased in plexiglass to protect it. When Ta Bess lived in ancient Egypt, she was a singer in the temple choir. The beautiful paintings on her coffin call her the songstress of Amen. The paintings also tell us that Ta Bess was married to a barber who shaved the heads of the temple priests. This is the mummy of Nesmut at Nehru. Her coffin says that she was the lady of the house. Now, this probably meant that she took care of a home and possibly children. Her mummification was very costly because of the fine linens and the beautiful beadwork adorning the body. Mummies were hidden for centuries deep within the protective walls of the pyramids. Mummies were also buried in other sacred places, like the cliffs of the Valley of the Kings. The mummies were laid to rest in beautiful burial chambers that were cool, dry, and dark. Hundreds of paintings decorated the walls with scenes of ancient Egyptian men and women silently working, suspended in time for thousands of years. People have always wanted to look beneath the wrappings of the mummies to see what's really underneath there. But that can be a pretty risky business because mummies are extremely fragile. I guess you would be too if you were over 3,000 years old. Touching or moving mummies too much can cause them to crumble. So, how do we get a look at them? Well, let's go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and find out. Mummies aren't moved very often, but this is a special occasion. This mummy has a doctor's appointment. The mummy's head was unwrapped before it was donated to the Kalamazoo Public Museum, and now the curator wants to find out more about the mummy. Today, we'll look under the wrappings as 20th century medicine probes secrets that are over 2,500 years old. This is the CT scanner room at Bronson Methodist Hospital. The CT scanner is a special kind of X-ray machine that takes detailed pictures without damaging the mummy. The X-ray session is being supervised by Dr. Robert Fosmo, a radiologist, and Dr. Lorelei Corcoran, an Egyptologist.
Patient,
Mummy,
age,
about 2,500 years.
physician, myself. All right, let's see what the CT can show us that's beneath the wrappings. There we have it.
That's fantastic. What can we see here on the screen?
Well, beneath all of the wrappings, we have the mummy. Here's the head. Here are the eyes. This is the nose. Here is a mouth where you can see the teeth, the jaw, the neck, hands. The hands are crossed on the chest.
We can even see the individual fingers of the hands.
The CT scan shows a skeleton in good condition, but it also indicates some dental problems.
These are the teeth, and they are very much worn down, flattened. Many are missing. They're really in extremely bad shape.
I think it was the sand that's responsible for that. They lived on a desert, and the sand would get into their bread and all of their food. Every time they ate, the sand would wear down their teeth.
This is the head. We see the eyes, they're intact. You see the sinuses. They are clear, except the central sinus region, which is white.
Probably in this case, the brain was extracted through the nose.
This is the pelvis, and we can tell this is a female by the shape of the pelvis. Also, I see a certain whiteness of the joint. This often follows childbirth.
So she was a mother.
Correct.
The X-rays tell us part of the story, but we also want to know, what did this mummy look like? Using the CT scans, a forensic artist will create a model of her face.
The first step in the reconstruction of the mummy is to make life-size drawings from each of the scans.
Ray Evenhouse uses the CT scans to create an exact three-dimensional replica of the mummy's skull.
The next step is to transfer the drawings onto styrofoam board, which gives me a layer in the skull. And then when we stack all the layers on top of each other, we've recreated the original skull. I then have to cut small pieces of blue plastic to indicate the tissue depths over the specific areas on the skull. The skin and the muscle on the face are at different thicknesses in different areas, and the markers tell us how thick the clay should be in those areas. The eyes really help the face come alive. After the model is finished, I have to add coloring to the face. In the lips, for example, I use a soft red color. The final touch in this particular sculpture was adding the wig. It's pretty remarkable to see a face come alive from 3,000 years ago.
I just thought I'd check on Ak, put some more money in the meter. You know, it's easy to buy some time for parking, so Ak won't get towed away. But it's a lot harder to buy some time for ancient objects, like mummies. So talented people use unusual techniques to make sure these treasures stay around for thousands of years to come. Hi, I'm Mimi.
Hi, Levar. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine.
This is Mimi Levesque, and she works here at the Conservation Laboratory at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. Mimi, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm cleaning a mummy of a little cat, Levar.
You mean they actually mummified animals, too?
That's right. They mummified them as religious offerings.
Do you have any other mummified animals here?
Mm-hmm. Look, we have a little mummy of a lamb.
No, wait. How do you know that that's a lamb there?
Well, you can see his eyes here. And the ears, they were put on in linen at the back.
Uh-huh.
And then the mouth was done in linen at the front. And then they wrapped him up like that.
I see. And what's this over here?
That's a mummy of a crocodile.
Really?
Yeah.
There's his head.
That's right.
Right? And his body is here.
Uh-huh.
And this would be a tail.
That's right.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know that this is really a cat?
With this one, you can see it was made to look just like a little cat. It has its head here, and then little buttons were put underneath the linen to make it look like eyes, and linen ears were put on the outside.
And where's his tail?
The tail would have been all wrapped up inside.
And these squares on the top, these are just decorations for the mummy?
That's right.
Now, what were you doing with the cat when I came in, Mimi?
While I was cleaning the cat, I'm taking the dirt off of the surface of the linen first, and then what I'm going to do is take off these little moth casings. Moths somehow got onto it, and they were eating the linen, just like they would eat your sweater. See the little moth casing right here? Well, I'm going to take it with these tweezers very, very gently. I want to make sure I don't disturb any of the linen underneath. And I'm just going to peel it up and take it off the surface.
Wow, that's amazing.
See this other little one right here? I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to loosen it with the tweezers and pull it very, very gently right out. Now I can use my brush, take the last of the dust out. Now, see how much cleaner all that looks now?
You know, this place really is sort of like a laboratory, isn't it?
Well, it really is a laboratory. We've got all kinds of microscopes and other technical equipment here to help us work on the art. As a matter of fact, Suzanne here is looking under a microscope right now at a little object. She needs it to be able to see all the areas of loose and flaking paint really close up. She's going to be taking a hypodermic syringe and injecting those areas of flaking paint with a special adhesive that will set them right down. We also use special chemicals and cleaners like this powder that Carol is putting onto the object. She'll rub it around very gently with a white cloth and then brush it into a little pile and vacuum it up. And now I've got someone I want you to meet.
Really?
Yeah, we've been working on him a long time. This is my friend E.T. He's a mummy who's 4,000 years old.
Really? 4,000 years old. Now, why is he here in the conservation lab?
Well, we've been taking care of him for quite a long time. When he was in the ground, termites got into the tomb, and they ate these big holes into his linen, so that his linen was really in the shreds that you see underneath. And so what we've had to do is take some silk, and we dyed it to match his original linen color, and then we were able to wrap it around him, almost like a silk stocking, so that it would protect what was left of the linens and make sure that nothing further deteriorated.
And to keep it from falling out.
That's right.
Well, thanks, Mimi. Thanks for showing us the lab today.
Thanks for coming, Levar. Come back again soon.
I will. You know, it's important to take care of these treasures from the past so that people can continue to admire and study and to read about them. So, if the lure of mummies has you in its spell, then here are some books that you're bound to dig. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'd like to take a little bit of your time to tell you about an interesting science book. It's called I Can Be an Archaeologist by Robert Pickering. Archaeologists are scientists who study how ancient people lived. They look at clues that people left behind hundreds or even thousands of years ago. Some of the clues are big, like the houses people lived in and the walls they built. And some of the clues are small, like the coins people used and the tools they made. When I grow up, I want to be a scientist, so this book was very exciting for me. And if you're interested in how people lived in the past, pick up I Can Be an Archaeologist. Hi, I'm Chris. Did you know that crocodiles go to school with lunchboxes and pencils? They do in this hysterical book, Bill and Pete Go Down the Nile. This is a story about a crocodile named Bill and his toothbrush, who is also a bird named Pete. When they go to school, they learn about Egypt, their homelands, and the Nile River. Their teacher takes them on a class trip to see the mummies, pyramids, and all sorts of things that are in Egypt. The exciting part of the story comes at the end, but I don't want to give it away, so I'll only tell you that somebody winds up being a mummy. You ought to read this book because It's a riot. And since most kids can't take a real trip down the Nile, this book is the perfect substitute. I give it a thumbs up. Where can you go to find ancient artifacts, new paintings, and weird sculptures all under one roof? A museum, of course, or you can try reading the book I just read called Visiting the Art Museum. It's about a family with kids who don't want to go to a museum, but their mom and dad take them anyway. When they get there, they see a variety of things and discover that a museum can be very interesting after all. They see Egyptian pharaohs, lots of sculptures, and beautiful paintings. My favorite part was when they were visiting the knights in shining armor, because I love medieval times. I'm Jeremy Clapperman, and if you can't go to the museum today, why not get this book, where you can explore lots of worlds that are new to you.
Museums are like giant time capsules that give us glimpses into the past. And the more we discover about other times and places, like ancient Egypt, the more there is to discover.
Hey, buddy, is this your camel?
Oh, no! Excuse me, officer, is there some problem?
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy, but you're out of time.
Oh, well, I guess we are. I'll see you next time. Ah, why did you let that guy give us a ticket, huh?
You know, Saturday mornings, we have the best television around for kids. There's Sesame Street, gentle stories with good words to live by on Shining Time Station with Ringo Starr. And fairy tales for the whole family on Long Ago and Far Away. Begins at 7 Saturdays, right here on Channel 2.
Facing America Today.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Monday evening at 9 here on Channel 2. This is member-supported Channel 2, the best television on television.
Reading Rainbow is made possible by grants from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the National Science Foundation, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, this station, and other public television stations. And by a grant from Kellogg's, who reminds you to take time each day for reading.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading
Hi. Do you hear that sound? It's an invitation to a festival that's happening all over New York Central Park today. Everywhere people are singing, dancing, dressing up and getting together to celebrate the music and culture of Africa. You know, all black Americans have roots in Africa since our ancestors originally came from there. So Africa is very much a part of who we are today. One of my favorite things about Africa is the tradition of storytelling. Here's one of the stories I love best. It's called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters.
Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African Tale. By John Steptoe. Read by Felicia Rashad. A long time ago in Africa, a man named Mufaro lived with his two daughters, Manyara and Nyasha. Everyone agreed that Manyara and Nyasha were very beautiful. Manyara was almost always in a bad temper. She teased her sister and said, "Someday, Nyasha, I will be a queen, and you will be a servant in my household." "If that should come to pass," Nyasha responded, "I will be pleased to serve you, but why do you say such things?" "Because everyone praises you," Manyara replied. "But when I am queen, everyone will know that your silly kindness is only weakness." Nyasha was sad that Manyara felt this way, but she ignored her sister's words and went about her chores. One day, Nyasha noticed a small garden snake resting beneath a yam vine. "Good day, little Nyoka. You are welcome here." From that day on, Nyoka was always at Nyasha's side when she tended her garden. Early one morning, a messenger from the city arrived. "The most worthy and beautiful daughters of the land are invited to appear before the king," he proclaimed. "And the king will choose one to become queen." Mufaro called Manyara and Nyasha. "It would be a great honor to have one of you chosen," he said. "Prepare yourselves to journey to the city." That night, when everyone was asleep, Manyara stole quietly out of the village. In her hurry, she almost stumbled over a small boy who suddenly appeared standing in the path. "Please," said the boy, "I'm hungry. Will you give me something to eat?" "Out of my way," Manyara replied. "Tomorrow I will become your queen. How dare you stand in my path?" After traveling for what seemed to be a great distance, Manyara came to a clearing. There was an old woman seated on a stone. "Manyara," she said, "I will give you some advice. Soon you will see a grove of trees. They will laugh at you, but you must not laugh in return." "How dare you advise your future queen?" Manyara scolded. "Stand aside, you ugly old woman." Just as the old woman had foretold, Manyara came to a grove of trees, and they did indeed seem to be laughing at her. "I laugh at you, trees!" she shouted and hurried on. In the morning, the wedding party assembled outside, but Manyara was missing. Everyone bustled about, searching and calling for her. When they found her footprints on the path to the city, they decided to go on as planned. They were deep in the forest when Nyasha saw the small boy standing by the side of the path. "You must be hungry," she said, and she handed him a yam she had brought for her lunch. The boy smiled and disappeared. Later, the old woman appeared and pointed the way to the city. Nyasha thanked her and gave her a small pouch with sunflower seeds. Then, when the party came to the towering trees, their uppermost branches seemed to bow down to Nyasha as she passed beneath them. At last, they were near their destination. Nyasha ran ahead. She stood transfixed at her first sight of the city. But as they entered the city gate, the air was rent by piercing cries, and Manyara ran out wildly. When she saw Nyasha, she fell upon her, sobbing, "Do not go to the king, my sister. Oh, please, father, don't let her go," she cried. "There's a great monster there, a snake with 5 heads. He would have swallowed me alive if I had not run. Oh, my sister, please, don't go inside." It frightened Nyasha to see her sister so upset. But leaving her father to comfort Manyara, she bravely made her way to the king's chamber and opened the door. On the seat of the great chief's stool lay the little garden snake. Nyasha laughed with relief and joy. "My little friend," she exclaimed, "it's such a pleasure to see you. But why are you here?" "I am the king," Nyoko replied. And there, before Nyasha's eyes, the garden snake changed shape. "I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, and the old woman to whom you made a gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka. Because I have been all of these, I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would make me very happy if you would be my wife." And so it was that Nyasha agreed to be married. Villagers from all around were invited to the celebration, and a great feast was held. Mufaro proclaimed to all that he was the happiest father in the land, for he was blessed with 2 beautiful and worthy daughters, Nyasha, the queen, and Manyara, a servant in the queen's household.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, when the call went out for Nyasha's wedding, it was probably played on a drum. Drums are the heartbeat of African life. But it's how a drum is made that gives it its power. So, it's really important who the drum maker is.
I'm Kobla Mensadente, and I'm an African drum maker. When I make a drum, I feel very connected to an ancient tradition, a tradition that goes back many, many centuries. And when I carve a drum, I feel I've become a part of that tradition. The first thing I do when I carve the drum is to take my tool, the asso, and take off the bark of the wood. When I work with it, I have to be very careful because I can hurt myself easily with this tool. When I choose a log to make a drum, I look for something that will be large enough, something that will be strong enough to make the instrument that I want to make. The wood that I like to use is red cherry or red oak. These are woods that make good drums. Today, I'm making a djembe drum. This drum comes from the old Mali Empire. It is a drum of celebration. After I finish shaping the drum, I begin to hollow out inside of the shell. I'll use a tool called the Gauss chisel. It's like a knife, but it has a curved blade on it. And this allows me to scoop out the wood inside the log. When I make a drum, I put a lot of my own energy, spirit, and soul into it. So it's important to me that the person who plays the instrument understands that this drum is something that we both share. I feel when you can take something out of a raw piece of wood and create an instrument out of it, then you're making magic. Depending upon the drum that you want to make, you use different types of animal skins. For this djembe drum, I use a goat skin. And I soak this skin in water till it gets real soft so that I can mold it onto the shell of the drum. The skin stays fastened onto the drum by cradles. You have one cradle on the top and one cradle on the bottom. Now I let the skin dry for a day before playing it. When I complete a drum, I feel very satisfied. I feel this instrument now can make its own sound and make its own music and have a life of its own.
African drum is only one of many voices in African music. And here to show us some others is Kamate Dinizulu, a master musician who collects and plays authentic musical instruments that originated in Africa. Kamate, what is the instrument you're playing here?
Well, this instrument here is called a twanga.
A twanga.
Right. And it's found throughout Africa, and it's known by many different names. It's said to be one of the great ancestors to the modern-day piano and organ.
So what else do you have to show us?
Well, I brought a couple of other interesting goodies along, such as the hulu.
The what?
The hulu.
The hulu.
Right. It's a very ancient form of a trumpet, which is found in 2 countries in Africa, Chad and Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
It's made out of a calabash or gourd, which is a vegetable, and it's in the same family as the pumpkin.
Right.
All right. And this part is made out of a piece of bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it has a beautiful sound. You can also feel it, not just
hear it. Let's hear it. Wow, what a sound, what a feeling.
It's a beautiful instrument.
It is.
It's very ancient also.
Now, Kamante, this looks like an ordinary seashell. How could this possibly be a musical instrument?
Well, I'll show you.
Okay. I like the sound of that.
It's a conch shell. It's called lambi in Haiti. Haiti is an island in the Caribbean. It's also, of course, played in Africa, and it's known by different names.
Mm-hmm. And how do you turn it into a musical instrument?
You count down 3 rings from the tip. Only 3, not 4, not 5. And then you put it to your lips.
Yeah. Wow. 3 rings, huh? Oh! That's great.
Yes. Was good.
This is amazing. Now, what else do you have over here? Whoa, great sound.
Levar,
Yeah.
I want to show you something. Do you mind? Can I
No,
show you
not at all.
something?
No,
You know, in Africa, the instruments are not just played solely by one person, but in groups, in large groups.
Uh-huh.
And this instrument is called a kasa.
An akasa.
Right. It comes from Ghana. The Ga people play it.
The Ga people.
And this instrument right here, this is an instrument. It's called the
This what you've been sitting on is an instrument?
Yeah, it's called the gome.
Oh,
And it's played with your hands and your feet.
Okay.
And the akasa is played something like this. Can you do that?
Yeah.
All right. All right, you got it?
Right, and you're gonna play the gome. Yeah!
Oh, you did good,
Thank
man.
you.
Real good.
Thanks very
Real
much.
good,
Come on,
real good.
thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We really enjoyed it. You know, listening to the music of Africa really makes you feel like you're there. Reading about it does too. So, if Africa is a place that you want to visit, then here are some books that are just the ticket. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Jambo. That means hello in Swahili, a language spoken in many African nations. Here's a book that will introduce you to the language of Swahili. It's called Jambo Means Hello by Muriel Feelings. This book is written as an alphabet book. It's sort of like a dictionary. There's a word for every letter of the alphabet. Each page tells you what the word means and also a little story about each one. For example, Rafiki means friend. In Africa, friends work and play together. The drawings in the book are done by Tom Feelings. I think they're incredible because the pictures are so lifelike you can almost tell the meaning without looking at the word. This is no ordinary storybook of fantasy, but it's lots of fun to read. You'll find out about a whole world you probably never even knew existed. Africa is thousands of miles away, but to get a little taste of it, just travel down to your neighborhood library and take out this book. And when you get there, tell them Andrew Yalley sent you.
Hello, I'm Josette, and if you're interested in learning about life in Africa and you can't get there just yet, then I suggest you read the Jafta series by Hugh Lewin. They're all about a little boy named Jafta. Jafta's a sweet, understanding kind of kid. He loves animals and treats them well. He doesn't have many toys, but he's got lots of pets. Jafta has a very special relationship with his father. Sometimes his father carries him across the river on his shoulders. The pictures are great, and they have a real African feel. So if you want to take that trip to Africa, then just go to the library and pick up the Jafta series. It's fun to read.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'm here to tell you about a story with strange animals and interesting words. It's an African folktale called Who's in Rabbit's House. The story is about a play put on by an African village. The village people act and dress up like different animals. There's a ferocious leopard, a strange elephant, and a peculiar rhinoceros. Some parts of the story made me laugh, especially when the creepy caterpillar came out of the rabbit's house. The pictures in this book are painted in the colors of nature, which make them very unique. If you'd like to read a story from another country, try Who's in Rabbit's House. It's a little different and a whole lot of fun.
Well, we're just about ready to begin one of the highlights of today's festival. It's a performance by a group called Forces of Nature, and they're going to dance a lamban, or celebration, that's based in the West African folkloric tradition. Although much of what we'll see is rooted in the past, Forces of Nature mixes the old with the new, creating something entirely unique. It really makes me proud of my African heritage, and I'm glad that that heritage is now a part of our American tradition. I'm gonna go dance. See you next time.
Reading Rainbow, every weekday afternoon at 5. We'll see you again Monday at 5 o'clock. And do join us tomorrow morning for Shining Time Station at 9, and Wonderful Stories on Long Ago and Far Away at 9:30. It's for kids and their grown-up friends. Saturday mornings here on Channel 2.
Today's Reading Rainbow books are Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters by John Steptoe, published by Lothrop, Lee, and Shepherd Books. Jambo Means Hello, Swahili Alphabet Book by Muriel Feelings, illustrated by Tom Feelings, published by Dial Books for young readers. Jofta Series by Hugh Lewin, illustrated by Lisa Copper, published by Carol Rhoda Books, Incorporated. Who's in Rabbit's House by Verna Artema, illustrated by Leo and Diane Dillon, published by Dial Books for young readers.
Funding for Reading Rainbow is made possible by a grant from Kellogg's, who urges you to explore the joys of reading. Funding for the series was also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, this station, and other public television stations, the Carnegie Corporation of New York, and the National Science Foundation.
We're grateful for the thousands of you who've called in with pledges or sent in checks. If you haven't done your part, just call 492-1111 right now. That's how easy it is to become a $35 member of WGBH and to help us reach our 200,000 member goal. Thanks for helping to support the best television on television.
Hey, Rugel!
There's a new student at Lawrenceville.
That Hicks and his crew over at the Dickinson will straighten him out, never you fear.
Now remember, all of you, nothing brutal, nothing coarse.
American Playhouse presents The Beginning of the Firm.
Next Wednesday at 9 here on Channel 2.
Over the years, wine has come to symbolize the spirit of Mediterranean man. From the ancient Greeks to the Roman vineyards of Pompeii and the merchant ships of Naples. A staple of the diet, a staple of the economy, a timeless source of pleasure.